Welcome everybody to our workshop number 3 of our ISS Ride-share. And what I have done is that I have built a short agenda. Essentially, what we're going to be covering today is we're going to have a progress update to see how everybody is doing. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had one-on-one catch-up calls with a number of the leads on leading their institutions on the program, and we've been able to make sure that everybody's catching up at a great pace. So let's have a little bit of a progress update after this, and then possibly we could have a look at a sensors and payload discussion, and let's just make sure that everybody's able to write the data to the SD card and to create some experiments in different conditions, and then we'll go to the timelines. So with that, would anybody like to share an update of where you are at the moment and the progress that you've been able to make over the last 2 weeks?
I can go.
Amanda, how are you doing? Yeah.
We got it to work. That's good. Yes, we were able to get everything up and running and seeing data. Our next hurdle is going to be the SD card. So I appreciate the sharing of the code. And so I just need to look at that and kind of wrap my brain around the process for how to get that to our chip. And then we should be good to go. But yeah, we've made a lot of progress.
Excellent. I was wondering, are you going to be handing any of your kits to your students to take home over the holidays, just to play
Yes.
around with?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We're going to be sending some home with them, and I've asked them to test it in different environments, and so they're excited to do that.
Fantastic. Great. Susan, you and I were on a call. Feels like an
Oh,
hour
yeah.
ago.
Oh, yeah, it was yesterday, right? So,
Yeah.
my students were testing with the new chip, and they're able to get that starter code onto to read the advanced chips. And the only thing they did notice that the chip was easier to connect to the internet. So I appreciate the work that you had done to improve the chips because it was being picked up by the students. The only thing is that they weren't detecting the light sensor. Is there a particular arrangement the light sensor has to be in order for it to be detected by the advanced chip? Or is it something that's not being detected with the chip program?
Okay, what it is that we will probably need to send you new light sensors. If you feel that you are going to use the light sensor on the ISS project, what it is that that sensor that came with your original STEM kits, that unfortunately reached end of life. So we needed to put a new sensor onto the board. So the code relates to the newer sensor. I'm very happy to send out some sensors so that you can see that it does actually work.
That would be
So
great.
yeah.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
wanted to have, when we go to Blue Hills tomorrow to set up the sensors at the observatory, that we'll be able to detect light and UV. But I'll let her know that I'll let the students know that the newer chip can't detect
Yeah.
the code. The students thought that it might be a code write out because they noticed that the line item that said index would normally have the lux, and it said MaxIQ instead when they were looking at the readings on the
Yeah.
dashboard. They were picking up that might be just, so if you could send me the new, we're not going to use that light sensor on the ISS, but we are using, like, for example, we just applied to a grant to be able to create a new recyclables program by using recyclable waste, specifically water bottles, bottle caps, and K-cups and plastic bags. So they're going to just try to create filament. And if they're successful, we're going to try to redo the recyclables program at our school and show it to other schools and make contact with some leadership at the State House, which is coordinating through student outreach. So my students would be able to present that project. But we're going to use your sensors for that. I don't know if we'll necessarily be using the light one, but we will be using your sensors in other future contexts, just like that. So I definitely would like to have the new upgrade light sensor. Unfortunately, like we haven't had a chance yet. I'm going to look at it this holiday break, looking at getting the new code. Like I'm actually also going to outreach the other teacher here, James Gorham, at his school, because he'd already had the code working with one custom sensor. So I know from the sensors that my students had picked out, they picked out 8 or 9 of them. They did want to try out that one because they saw other schools were using it. So I'm going to ask him for the code, and I got the code from Montana State University, and I'm hoping to kind of crack it. So I have a context so students can do a sample custom sensor and then try their sensors and see how it works. I have yet to reach out to NTX at Box Barrel, and they test satellites, and they have volunteered to test my projects in the past for free. So I want to give them a call again and have that, not just a Blue Hills Observatory, but also have it tested there. If you think that I know my students have brought home the kits for the eclipse that we ran in April. If you think that it's worthwhile for students to maybe play around and figure out a context to run the kits at home, like not the with the IS. Well, actually, we have extras of the ISS chip. I didn't think of that, but I'll bring it to my attention to my students, because there are definitely some students very interested in these electronics and the capabilities. So yeah, so I feel like I'm making progress. I'm hoping to make more progress to where I want my students to be after vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. Susan, those original kits that you have will work perfectly well. They work 100%.
Yeah,
So
just give them.
maybe actually take some of those to Blue Hill Observatory, because they work perfectly well with that light sensor and the soil moisture sensor and
Oh, I see
everything.
what you mean. Like have the old style chip and sensors, the new style, and have them and run them concurrently. Yeah, that's actually really. I hadn't even thought of that. But that'd be great. And then
it still works perfectly. Yeah,
still making a complementary
because
project. Used to you're thinking about the values mean like
sure.
if one indoors here, one at Blue Hills Observatory outside, and and then have one at least measuring light here and have another one measuring light here. So I wanted to create talking points between the observations and what they can draw conclusions, not me telling them the conclusions, but having them figure something. And actually, I enjoy their insights much better than my own. They were picking up things I hadn't even picked up on the kits because they really get into it. So yeah, I'll make a note for that as well to bring the old style.
Absolutely. I think that also, I think maybe for everybody, it's really important to note that this version 2 of the core, we've only released this to this group on the ISS project. We haven't released this in general for our overall STEM programs. So it is meant for you to be able to progress towards having your payload on the ISS. So
oh wait,
I'm saying that, and I hope it doesn't sound too brutal. We're not ready right now to have this new core as our generic core out there for all of the students and all of the projects, etc. I'm concerned that if you try to do too many projects with this new one, that we're not going to be able to support you sufficiently. So I just want to manage that expectation, because I don't want you, Susan, I don't want you to feel let down and that we've dropped you, because this is meant for this project. That is why I'm saying that those other STEM kits you have work perfectly for all of these various projects that you want to do.
Okay, yeah, no, I just was like, here's, I put like a little,
yes.
This would say it, yes. So I put ISS on the one that they're using. So, but I wanted them to kind of keep the goal in mind is, that we're going to be testing in a contest that's not the classroom because we
Yeah.
can't run that. So, but yeah, no, that's perfectly all right if this is like some sort of beta chip or it's only for the ISS. That your standard chip is what you're expecting
Yeah.
to use.
Right now it is. We estimate that in March we'll be ready to incorporate it into all of our programs.
Could you, if you downloaded the starter program to your chips on the standard kits, will it detect all the sensors, or is it still
Um,
but
no,
you get
you need to run it with the version that it has on it.
okay, right.
It's a different generation. It's a previous generation of the chip.
Oh, okay. All
It's
right.
not it's not an identical chip. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Okay, thank you so much for your help.
Absolutely. No,
If
absolutely.
for some reason
Great.
over the holiday I don't figure out lesson plan how to show them example chip for customization, I'll reach out and I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
figure something out. And yeah, I just wanted to
absolutely.
make sure that they give them a model, how to write a custom, how to create a custom chip for this, and then they take a look at the sensors and see if they work. And if they don't work, that's okay. They'll have at least one chip, or if they can get a couple of chips. I just want to make sure that they're feeling like they're personalized, that they can put in a personalization to the project, and I'm
Absolutely.
giving them steps for them to do that. Okay, yeah, thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Mike, how is
Hello.
it going on your side?
Um, so my students are in the middle of finals, and then they go home for quite a long time next week. Some of them back mid-January, most of them not back till February 1st.
Hmm.
So we we had our balloon launch payloads pretty much ready to go. So, but we've backburnered those, and so some of my students are trying to work on the orbital payloads from home, but
Okay.
I think we'll mostly be stagnant until beginning of February.
Okay.
So I will use my time to instead chime in if we still have Biarca.
Yes, we do.
I hear
He's
folks
here.
hoping to I hear folks hoping to move on to SD card write.
Yes.
And just a little micro obstacle that we hit. Uh Biarca, we always go to the CWV GitHub
Yeah,
on Domino 4 to try.
I
This
go
is
to
kind of our
this.
Bible, but
Yeah,
you published the great SD card code example recently, which was like the shortcut for us to do everything, and it was the shortcut for us to like we had been succeeding at SD card write, but very in a very convoluted fashion. And your new code SD card example was like a shortcut to just defeat all obstacles. Um, but what I noticed is it immediately went into the memory hole of just the flat repository list. Um,
so what are you saying, Mike? You can't find it?
no, we found it, but it was hard. And so if other schools are looking for it, I'd highly suggest linking it from CWV instead. So within CWV, you already have like a link to SD card C code example. If
Okay.
this either instead or additionally linked to your great code example, I think it will avoid a lot of headaches by other schools.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So
I see the rest of my time.
so let me just if I can share my screen here. So just for and I know that let me just do this thing here, and here we go. share. Okay, so you should be able to see my Chrome window here. So if you go to CWA, so if you go to so Mike say he goes to CWV with his our extended core. And I haven't actually made an update on the CWV for the new core. So what I've done is that if you go to CWA, which is the name for both the new and the old small core, so you can see the one you have here is the one that called version 2 plus, and we have the old one next to it. And you can see underneath here, the one runs ESP32S3, and the other is the old ESP32. And the reason why I want you to go here is because here is, if you look at the column that says 2 plus, you can see how you can connect to it, how much memory there is, how fast it is, and all that. You also have the pins, so there's touch buttons on the version 1. On the version 2, there's these two buttons here. And then there's a script about how these buttons are operating. Version 1 have a number of LEDs. Version 2 have other LEDs, and you can see here the pin allocation here, number 40 and 39. And then especially when it comes to I2C, what pins we're using here, and the expansion port is only accessible on V2. So this is the pins. Then when you write the SD cards, then you use these 6 pins here for writing the SD card over the expansion port. And then there's a little bit of troubleshooting here. Now, so this is all the documentation for that new core. And the example of the SD cards are actually for that new version 2 plus core. So it's on the example here, and there is the example of the code, and these 6 pins are just documented before, plus the 2 pins for R2C. Now, on the new core, which I have here, so this is the new core that you will get sent. So this is the detected called CWN for NanoRacks, because it's not the same size as the CWV. So on this one here, I have a SD card plugged in, and there's a room for another SD card here on the side here. So I'm now inserting an SD card here. Oops, sorry. So there's SD card here, and there's also one here. So when I'm talking about the SD card on expansion port, and you don't have this yet, so therefore the expansion port here works exactly the same way as the expansion port works on this core here. So they are, it's the same expansion port. So when you get this new one, the only thing that's different is that there's another SD card here that you can use. And then there is there's more memory on this card here, which for most of you doesn't really matter, but there's PS RAM. And then it communicates over these and get power over these side pins here. So that's the reason why we have to use this thing here when we fly. So the SD card for built-in, that is the code if you want to use this SD card when you get this thing here. Then you can see there is an example for this one here that's different. So that's the reason why there's 2 examples for SD cards underneath here. Sorry, I went too far away. So there's one built in for this one here, and the expansion port that sits here. Now down here in the documentation, I'm talking about how to program it. And the thing is that I have here set all the pins for CWV V2 are listed here on the CWA, but for the CWN, and this is what this is called, CWN, and this is version 5. Here's a short list of the extra pins, and the only extra pins there are is these ones. So that's the reason why I haven't actually updated a sheet for the CWN yet. So there is 2 pins for CAN bus, which you don't have to worry about now. And then there is a chip select, which is for chip select for using this built-in SD card here. So that's pin 3. And if I go back to the example with the built-in code, with the built-in SD card, sorry, you can see here that I'm using pin 3 here. So that's the only difference there is between this one and this one here is that it's extra SD card and it has another pin. So when you get this one here and you want to use that SD card, there is the other code here. Now, so let me just go to the top here. So that's the reason for these 2 codes. We had a call with 6 hours earlier yesterday from today. So yeah, 6 hours earlier when we started here, and mainly for the time zone on the other side of the Atlantic. And there were some questions about how fast you could write to the SD card, and also, and especially because there was a request for using accelerometer to read the vibration data from the ISS. So what I have done is today I actually tested that. And if you go to Discord under ISS preparation, I have a thread there that's called SD card and sensor speed test. And there's also another piece of code if you are interested in high frequency read and write. So if you only have to write to the SD card, you can write to the SD card every 40 microseconds, so 0.04 milliseconds. So that's how fast you can write to the SD card. And that's only interesting if you want to do some advanced code where you need to have a lot of data, such as vibration data. But everything there I explained in the Discord, so I don't want to kind of like disturb the whole channel here with that. But if there's any request about how fast you can read and write SD card and read from sensors and things like that, I'm happy to answer further questions here, or you can take it up on Discord once you have read the thread or tried the code. Mike, are you still here?
Mike needed to rush out, so he did leave a message in the chat. Bianca, if you wouldn't mind stop sharing, if that's just for now, if that's okay. Great. Yes, after my one-on-one call with Amanda earlier this week, Alex did share the code that he developed for the ASRI project. So that is great. And I can see here Kayla has joined, and then Ifriki, if you want to unmute, I think I may have interrupted you earlier. I'm so sorry about that.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Hi, Ifriki.
Hope you are all fine and healthy and happy as I am to be here. Okay, I have an update on this side, which is a bit of hitting the reverse button, because I realized that there must be something with my PC I can't figure out that is giving me trouble with apps.maxiq.space. And I mean, Bianca had suggested that we look at Domino 4 dot github.io, which worked once and then never worked again. So we went back and looked at what we did for the high altitude balloon test. We ran the code, works well with our hardware, and we'll get the guys, the new guys. So the plan now is to get the new guys to start getting their hands dirty on that. And then they at least are working on something that they can upgrade from. Now, what do I mean the new guys? We had the team that worked on NASA HAB. Some of them, one went to France, the other is soon going to France, and this. And we trained a group of 20 something a few months ago, and we're picking from that group to constitute this, to complete the team again. And we're going to sharpen their teeth on the previous generation while I get this. I'm looking at the message from Judy here. Yes, I am using Chrome. Okay, this is what I tried. I used Chrome. I cleared the cache, cleared the cookies. Didn't work. I went to Edge, did the same. Even went to Firefox. Hell, I opened Tor just for kicks, and didn't work. I do have the new CWA v2, so it worked exactly once. The first time I opened it, it worked. I could program. I could notice that some I think the light sensor wasn't showing up. The Earth humidity sensor was picking up when I loaded the code for the SDG code. I tried to load the TinyGS code, works all right, but switched off, came back, and it never worked again. I haven't managed since. The link opens on my Android, but tells me that it cannot install things on ESP. I like the way Bjarke writes. So there's that. I have to find a way to get work. So I think there's a proposition to try put the HTTPS in front of the whole thing. Which I just did now.
Bjarke, are you still
and
around? Sorry.
Yes, he texted.
I'm here. Yeah, so while you're doing that, maybe I can just share
Yeah.
my screen here so you can see. So this is the website I'm talking about here, apps.maxiq.space. And
I
the
got
thing
this.
is,
I got this. I've seen this
okay.
one time, and I installed with it, and it was all fantastic. I was so happy and excited, and then the next time I came to it, didn't open.
Okay, so you can't open this website right now on Chrome.
On Chrome, on Edge, on anywhere.
Okay.
Ifriki, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you in exactly the same location? In other words, are you using the same Wi-Fi? The reason is that I know that some universities and institutions they will only allow sites that are whitelisted. So I'm just wondering if it's the internet connection that you're trying to use, if it's blocking this.
Well, I'm using the same internet connection on my Android that does open it, but doesn't open on the laptop. So the internet connection that I had used before to open it the first time doesn't open it anymore. I'm not sure if it has to do, but then I don't know. Is there something particular about a website which allows you to install something? Is it the browser? If I have to clear something about the browser, what do I clear? Because I cleared everything.
So, I mean, have you been in here and cleared the browsing data?
Yes.
Okay. Because it comes out and you can kind of like check what you want to delete and not delete.
Yeah. I
Okay.
checked. I cleared the cookies and the cached data.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Perhaps
and
firewall.
so one of the things, just just to try to troubleshoot it, try to connect your laptop to a hotspot on your phone and just see if you can open it up, because you should be able to.
This is how my laptop is actually connected, and I tried Wi-Fi and wired, so it's tethered at the moment.
Okay. Okay.
Other
And
normal internet works out well. This particular one is proving problematic.
okay.
Let me
Is
just,
anybody else who have
Perhaps we could
yeah,
do a
trouble
one-on-one
with
at
it?
I
some
was
point.
just going to ask that. Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Is
Perhaps
anybody
we do a
else
one-on-one
experiencing this?
Okay, I don't think there's anybody else that have an issue. Okay. I'm gonna try to see if I can find any documentation on what it can be, and then I can communicate with you on Discord if I can find
Okay.
anything. I mean, the problem is that if you have some IT people on your sites, because I mean this is just a normal website. There's the only thing that's special with it, and the reason why it have to run on Google Chrome and Edge, and it doesn't install anything. There's no like you can see up here in the corner here. I have a number of different extensions I installed in GitHub. There's no extension that have to be installed. The only reasons why it's there is because of this thing here where it can connect to a serial port, over USB, and that is only Google Chrome and Edge that have that functionality. Safari and all the other ones don't have it. So that's the reason why, if you open this thing here in for example Safari, it will come out somewhere and say, listen, this thing here will only work in Edge and Google Chrome. But you should be able to just open this thing here. Yeah, let's maybe Judy, maybe let's just move on, and then I will try to see if I can find something about if there is anything here where it says does it come out with any error message or anything like that, Freaky? I mean, does it say 503 or 403 or anything like that?
No, it doesn't. I tried to ping the address, and it sends out 4 packages, and the 4th are lost.
Okay.
4 packets. It's 4 times timeout with 4 lost packets out of 4.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, I will have no problem with that. But let me just check, because this thing here is obviously running on GitHub's iOS solution, but I get answers back when I ping it. So yeah, so no problem. What does it result the IP address? Do you get an IP address when you ping it?
Yes, it does. 185.199.111.153.
Yeah, that's the same I get. Okay. And then you just get no answers.
Or sent,
Interesting.
not received.
And if you do it from your Android phone, you have no problem getting the website up. If Ricky? Okay, that's cool. Let's move on, and if I can find something, I will put it into Discord. Judy?
Great. Absolutely. So I was just wondering if anybody else has any questions. Met, I know that you've sent me a message here. I was just wondering if you want to take it up with Bianca. Do you have your cable now? Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Yes, I have my wire now. It's data and power. So I check in the one that we worked this morning, and I can do the right click and I can open the folder and see what it is inside. But when I do it in the other, the one that I was trying to override yesterday, I cannot open the folder because I don't see a folder. There is just one light, the red one. When I plug in the wire and the OLED screen is off. So I don't see anything.
Okay, so when you plug in the cable, what kind of lights do you have on?
Just one, the red one.
And is it flashing or is it solid?
Solid.
Okay, so what you have to do is that you have been programming it's in programming mode when you have it like that. So what you can do is you can press the reset button, and then it will execute the code. So try click on that reset button. It's the circle that kind of like in a circle. The arrow that is in a circle. Yeah, that one.
In the
If I do a
meantime, does
refresh,
anybody else have any questions? So
if I do a refresh, this is how this look. So it's now I
Yes.
have green
Okay.
and red,
So
but
now,
no
no,
OLED screen.
no. So that's fine. So please just click on the reset button, not the other button, just the reset button alone.
Bianca, I think the code has been overwritten. That's why it's the OLED is not showing, because there's no instructions going to the OLED. That's what I
Okay.
think is maybe what's happening.
But if
What I want to
it's just
do is just going back to the original code, the factory settings, so I can then start over again to use the whole circuit.
okay, if right now if what you have is that the green light is on and the red light is pulsing in and out, is that what it's doing now?
Right now, I have it, and depending on how I'm moving, I can see both lights steady. If I move it a little bit, the red light is like going down a
Yeah,
little bit, fade, and
pulsing.
then
Yeah. So what you can do now is that you can just drag and drop the starter kit into the device. So let me just share here. So if you go to this app's MaxIQ.space, you can see here that it says here that you connect to your computer, and then you can download the UF2 file here. And then you double click on this reset button. If you do that, it goes into this UF2 mode, and it will light the green continuously, and it will also pulse the red light. And then what you can do is you can drag and drop. Then there will be a drive. You will see the CWA drive on your computer. And then you can take any of these files, and I suggest you take the starter kit here. So you download this thing here by clicking on this thing here, and you will have a starter.uf2 file downloaded, and you just drag it over to that CWA drive like it was a thumb drive.
Okay.
And then it should work. If you try that, and then we can come back to you just in a couple of minutes' time, and we just answer some other question if there is.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Judy?
Great. That's perfect. Does anybody else have any other questions about the code and where you are with your kits right now?
I have a quick question. We did receive these SD cards, but actually my bag didn't have any of the micro SDs. What is your preferred brand and what size gigabyte file should I get so my students can? That's why I didn't include these with the project that we're going to do at Blue Hills. But like I said, we could go. I'm actually having a meeting with them after this call, and we could go. I could drop stuff off with them, and yeah, they have no. They're really on board on helping my students through this project, so they have a different environment to test their project. So once we have the custom pieces, we'll probably bring it back to Blue Hills just to do a quick check. But what is the what's the micro SD? Can you write down the specification for that? Unfortunately, it's your hand is super tiny, so I
Yeah,
can't.
okay.
Okay.
So I just want to say that I think that I have written it down. If you go to SD card here, let me just
Oh, you
go
show
here
it on the
to it.
screen, the domino for, yeah.
Yeah, so down here, I say here, make sure the SD card is 32 gigabytes, maximum 32 gigabyte. So any size up to 32 gigabyte. And of
Okay.
course, it have to be a micro SD card. But that's the size. So a micro SD card up to 32 gigabyte. That's actually, and if it's a new card out of the box, it'll just work. But if it's been used for anything else, then you have to reformat it. And I have I showed that here. Sorry, is my screen not sharing? I don't think it's sharing, and I'm just pointing here.
I've
Share.
reported, yeah, my students have actually reformatted. I gave them a lesson on using FAT32, I guess it's called, where they formatted their SD card for a different project. Is that what
Okay.
you're as well? Or
Yeah. So
okay.
on my on the Domino 4 example SD card at the very bottom here, where
Okay.
I say SD card question mark. So if you get like a card mount failed, which you will do if you haven't inserted anything, so make sure it's a 32 gigabyte, as I said, and make sure that it's formatted as it arrives out of the box. So the way all SD cards arrives out of the box is they're formatted with this specific formatter, which comes from the organization that created the whole SD card. So it's a formatter that runs on Mac and Windows, and I think probably also Linux if it is. And then make sure that you don't use the quick format, but you use the override format in order to make absolutely sure the SD card works. If you do that, and the SD card otherwise is not problematic, if it works, then it will be fine. I have a 32, and the 32 gigabyte is like more or less the standard you can buy these days, 16 or 32 gigabyte. And for the ISS, 32 gigabyte is probably an all right. I mean, you're never going to use a gigabyte of data. It's just for reading these sensor data, that's just a very big card. But, as it is, when we get to certain sizes, then it just gets more and more difficult to get small SD card, and these are getting more expensive. So just get a 32 gigabyte card,
Okay.
and just don't buy anything from China because they because what they do is that they actually they cheat. They will give you like 1 gigabyte or something like that, and it will report to the operating system as 32 gigabytes. There's very cheap SD cards like that out there. So So just get like a SD card from any kind of like decent brand will work.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
thanks. Ahmed, have you been successful? Somebody's smiling a lot, so yeah, that's working. That's
Yep,
great.
it is working. It is working. And I managed to connect it again to our Wi-Fi at school. So yeah, we're good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Judy, back to you.
Right. Thank you, Bianca. Good. Alex, anything from your side? You good?
No, it's just I'm actually jealous because I was never able to get the sample data to connect to a Wi-Fi either at school or at home. So, but I got the data writing on my own, so I'm not as worried about. I wasn't worried about that. No, I'm trying to do. We just finished exams today. So our students are now going to probably take a day or two, and then I'm going to start quizzing them over the break. Since we're in the same data package with Declan, I like where he's going. I'm going to have my teams work on, if he works on the I'll call it the fancy data collection. I'm going to have my teams work on basically how do we maximize data collection so that we can do some of the really fancy stuff he's doing while minimizing the interruptions from the rest of the chipsets. So sort of look at doing a data analysis of how often do we really want to read temperature? Do we want to read temperature when he detects an event? Do we want to detect air motion or other things when he detects an event? So kind of almost looking at is getting standard readings over long periods of time. And if it doesn't change, don't record anything. And then when he's getting vibrations, detect everything and then compress it back down to in the interim so we can again maximize data resolve. And then I've been thinking up all the little simple questions like, so when are we starting to collect data? When does the power actually get turned on? Like those little things. I'm going to put all them together in a list because they're not worth trying to answer right now. So that we can sort of build the profile of what are we looking for. Because especially if he's doing vibrations and it's on during launch, that's a whole different ballgame. So I have a bunch of questions along those lines for where we're going to go. But those are all easily answerable from my perspective after the holidays, after my team and his team have actually had more time to sync up.
Yeah.
And put it all together. So
two comments, Alex. The one is that please read the threads in Discord on the ISS preparation I read, and especially ask Declan to kind of like read it also. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is that an accelerometer, for example, the one we have here, that actually support up to 3.4 megabit per second, and the normal read speeds on ISPC is 100 kilobits. And so I wrote about that in that thread because that sensor here doesn't support that high speed. So therefore, you start getting problems if you want to read the one with a high speed and another with a lower speed. So all that is discussed in that thread.
And that's where I'm going to have my kids focus on reading and coming up to speed on that, because that's from my perspective, for some of my programmers, that's a much more interesting challenge for them to give them something to sink their teeth into.
And then just a quick answer to one of the many questions you have. We are only getting data, we're only getting powered up on ISS.
Okay.
So this container here is having a connector and a button, and that gets slotted in on board the ISS. And only at that time, only from that time, there will be possible for power. They're probably not going to slot it in and then there's power immediately. They're probably going to slot it in, and then I can imagine, then the box is going to So they're putting into a box and then a bigger box, and that bigger box is sealed up and things like that, being transported to ISS, and they're gonna plug that in to ISS power, and then at that point they have some control over the box, and they probably can boot it up from ground, the anoraks. So we're not gonna have power before we are
Okay.
up there on
Perfect.
ISS. And the reason why this is important is that on for example, accelerometer, you can choose the resolution in G-force. So for example, this accelerometer and many others, they will have like a resolution of 2G, 4G, 8G, and 16G. And you want to use the lowest number, 2G, because obviously you have not even 1G, you have like 0.05G up there.
Right.
So just in order to have the highest resolution in G-force, you want to use the lowest number. And of course, if we were having data while we were launching a rocket, you want to have maybe a higher one, but that's not
Right.
the case. We are only getting
Okay.
so
we really are
booted up
designing
once
just
there.
for the orbit environment. Okay.
Yeah, but it's 4 months, so it's not bad. But unfortunately, it's not the excitement from the rocket that's included.
That's fine.
Judy?
Great, absolutely. Kayla, how are you doing? Do you have any questions for the team?
Hi. No. Currently, our learners are on break, so we haven't done much currently, so I don't really have any questions.
Okay, no, that's great. Wonderful. Mike, I see you back.
Yep, short meeting.
Great. Okay.
So I just want to say we're distributing these boards, and what we're going to do is we're going to preload code that can read the different sensors and write it to this SD card. So that will be preloaded on the board already, and you'll be able to load the code again using this apps.maxiq space. So if you override it and you want to kind of like say, no, I want to get back to how it was, there will be code. So there will be, like Mike said in the last meeting, there will be a no code option for you to fly this thing here with the standard sensors. So if the panic sets in like a week before you have to fly, you still have the option just to load it with standard code and put standard sensors in. So, but the code will be preloaded, so you can just put your sensors in and you can see how it works.
Maybe we should name that code the safety net.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's great. Okay, so if it's okay, I'd like to go back to our agenda. So we've chatted about all of this, and then I'd like to go to the timelines. So this is where we are at the moment, workshop 3. Just an update on everybody's progress. And I think that we're okay. What I've done is that with those of you who want to have catch-up sessions, one-on-one sessions, I'm very happy to share a link to my calendar so that you can just put something in my calendar. Even though in the Southern Hemisphere we are having a summer break, don't worry, I get separation anxiety from my laptop. So I look at my laptop every few hours anyway. So don't worry about disturbing me. I'm around. Our next big milestone is going to be at the end of January. Mike, I was just thinking about your students. Maybe this end of January date is not really going to be suitable for you. This is when we need to Sorry?
We are go. All systems go.
You go. Okay, that's fine.
I'll tell you right now.
Okay, that's perfect. So yeah, end of January, we need to have your go, no go decisions. Are you going to be ready to ship on the 15th of March, March 15th. So that's basically 6 weeks after this indication at the end of January. Does anybody on the call predict that you may have a challenge with this end January deadline?
Nope, we should be good over here.
Nope.
Okay, great. Ifriki, you do realize that the deadline arrives for you probably 4 to 5 hours before it arrives for Mike or Alex.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And Miss Medina has an extra hour. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so anything else, or is that it for this week?
I think we're
Okay.
I heard some questions about higher level stuff, like when are we going to be powered on? And just a highlight to the group, sometimes you can research these questions yourself. If you go to the NanoLab IDD, so that's on the NanoRacks website here. If you just Google NanoRacks NanoLab, you'll find your way here. And here's the IDD right here. And this just gives you an idea of what MaxIQ is working with at the next higher assembly. The enclosure, the environments, the form factor, the schedule, the milestones, everything. I skipped through it and I actually couldn't find any disclaimer about when power turns on. So it's possible that they do enable some, through special arrangements, they allow some customers to be powered on during launch. But for our pilot program, I don't think we're going to try to negotiate anything special like that. So
I can understand that.
Yeah, probably still safe assumption that we won't be powered on until on the ISS. But I highlight it anyway because you can learn a lot about the form factor and the experiment and environments and everything just by looking
that'll be
through
fun.
yourself. And this is a really educational document for students if they want to see what's going on. It's almost like a CubeSat that we're building. And so you can learn a lot about CubeSats and this type of experiment by reading this document.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if any of your students want to become engineers, reading these awful documents is sadly 75% of the job.
Yes.
So
And the other 25% is making them. So that's
right. So good to start early. So
yes. Thank you.
Great, Mike. Thank you very much. And I can see that Bianca has put the link in the chat. So that is great. Yes, wonderful. Please don't try to put everybody off from studying engineering. It's not that bad.
I couldn't stop my kids if I wanted to.
What I'm looking forward to is maybe there'll be a large language model that'll actually write these things one day. Maybe we could actually use one to read it and just say, please give me the highlights. Yeah, I must say,
I think I'm your large language model.
You are. Thanks, Mike. Maybe I should include a monthly subscription for you, Mike, to make you feel better. I'll pay it in X chips. How's that? Great. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to wrap up. Please have a wonderful break for the holidays, and we will see you very early in the new year in 2025, the year of our launch.